Good morning, happy Monday. Welcome to the Pitch Strike Chronicles. I am Uncle Tats. I am here with Donald and Rubino. And the Yankees, lucky enough, despite the doubleheader, which is usually does not bring luck to the Yankees, they were able to sweep yesterday to make it 2 out of 3. So we're all riding on a little bit of a high off of yesterday. But because of the events on Friday's game, they actually had the decision to make on what's going on with the closer situation, which led the Yankees to kind of make I'm going to say a very difficult decision, especially this early in the season where they had to make a pitching change, and it was not so much the personnel but the roles, which makes it a really even bigger decision, where Weaver is now going to be the closer going forward, for the time being until they see what they have at Williams. And I think this was something where you got to give credit to Boone for not wanting to just say, well, it's still early in the season, it's April, and any excuse that we've seen come out of Boone's handbook that we've seen in his tenure. All the cliches kind of got thrown out the window, and it's, I think the Yankees actually made the right decision at the right time. Williams, Weaver was our closer in the World Series. He's lived up to the pressure. He's lived up to the hype. He's not wavered by the pressure of the closer role. So where Williams, he's just not it right now. Right now, he's not. We don't know what's going to happen going forward. Maybe him in an eighth inning role, he'll show a little bit more of a confidence. But I also think Williams' comments about the whole situation, he kind of accepted his fate, which I do respect him for. He said, if I was performing what I was supposed to, we wouldn't be in the situation. To pretty much, summarize what he said. But the Yankees had no choice. We can't keep saying these games in April are not going to affect us in late September going into the postseason run. They need these games as much now than they do then. So I do give a lot of credit to the Yankees for really pulling the trigger on it sooner rather than later. And it's something we haven't seen in the last couple of years, with them really kind of say, you know what, it's not too early. So I do want to give them credit for that. And Weaver, it's not like you're throwing somebody in there that hasn't done it. Weaver's proven the ability to do it. He's got the moxie to do it. But I want to toss it around to Donald and Rob on how you feel about this pitching change in the closer role. Rob?
I think it was needed. A week ago I said it was too early, and that kind of goes to show you how things can change very quickly in the sport. We would have 19 wins if Devin Williams was doing his job. We'd be 19-9 right now. We'd have the best record. I believe that'd be tied for the best record, or most amount of wins at least in the entire league. So that's the difference that we're looking at. He's cost us 2 games. You can argue the Pittsburgh game, although there was no guarantee we would have come back we would have won that in extras, but you can put that game on there as well. That'd be a 20-win team. So if Devin Williams was doing his job the way we were expecting to, we would be one of the best teams, if not the best team in the league right now. So that's the difference. And it's not like usual struggles where a guy he's just missing a few spots, or they're making decent contact here and there. He's getting tagged like every single time. He's been bad before in the first month. He's never been this bad. Like his ERA in the month of April and March and April is usually like high 3s. Right now it's like 11. So like he's never been this bad. And that's why it was needed. Like if he was having his usual early season struggles, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We'd be like, all right, just let him get to May and June, July. He'll be back to himself. But he's never had this bad of a start. And that's why I think it was the right time, because Weaver made it look so easy yesterday. Weaver came in there, 1, 2, 3, bam, 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 got out of it. Whereas Devin Williams would have had a village on the bases by then before he got the first out. So I think it was needed. I don't think it's I think his comments were fine. A lot of people have a problem with his tone of voice, but he looks like a guy that just doesn't know what's going on, and he's just a guy that looks like he's defeated right now, which sucks. I do feel for him. I hope that eventually he turns around, because if he does, our bullpen that's already pretty good will be even better, and we kind of need him to get it going because we picked him up for a reason. But it's good to know that we have Luke Weaver at our disposal to take over the role. And I'm also glad that Boone decided to pull the trigger on it now before it became a real problem at some point later in the season. But the fact is, early on, it is still early in the year, but he's already cost us 2 definite wins, and you can argue about a third one. That's a lot for a season that hasn't even reached 30 games played yet. So you gotta look at that and say, if not for him, we'd be the best team in baseball right now, record wise. And he's been very, very bad, and that's why they had to make the change. So I applaud them for it, and I hope nothing else but the best for Devin Williams. I hope he turns it around, because if he does, guess what? Our bullpen's elite. But right now, he is like the weak link out of what's been a pretty decent bullpen, or I'd say good bullpen.
Yeah, Donald, what's your thoughts on it?
I think Williams should be ashamed of himself for the way he's performed. I'm going to be completely frank about it. It's absolutely shameful to perform like this. You demand to get facial hair policy changed in order to suit your needs, and you come out there and you have 10 earned runs, 12 runs given up in 8 innings, 7 walks, against the American League, 9 earned runs in 4 innings. He should be ashamed of himself. Absolutely. I'm not giving him a break. Absolutely disgraceful. If you start making demands to the Yankees, then our demand to you is that you perform. And you failed. And you failed fast. I mean, it's actually quite remarkable how fast this is blown up. His changeup isn't missing any bats. Very poor movement on it, which is different from previous years. And his fastball is just getting tagged. I think there is an element where he is tipping his pitches, and that was something that there was a major concern that he does tip his pitches. Like scouts have been saying that at times he can tip his pitches, especially in the playoffs. Well, it looks like he's carried it on into the regular season this year. So I have to say, although Williams should be ashamed of himself, Aaron Boone should pat himself on the back. Very, very proud of Aaron Boone, because I think previous years Aaron Boone would be like, oh, well, let's just wait and see. He's catering to someone's feelings, catering to a star's feelings. And make no mistake, Williams is a star. But he's not catering to anyone. And he is doing what's best for the New York Yankees. What's best for the New York Yankees is Weaver closing. He already proved it last year, where he took over from Clay Holmes to become the closer in the playoffs, and he led us to a World Series. And he was great in the World Series, great in the playoffs. He was just great all the way around, Weaver. But then the Yankees took advantage of an opportunity, which I've been wanting them to do. I wanted them to get Williams. It's not Monday morning quarterback. I was rooting for Williams to be good. He comes in, and he's been a disaster, and he's lost his job within like 3 weeks. That's hard to do. So Weaver, once again, has proven that he's the best closer. So I'm glad that Aaron Boone made that decision quickly, because you can't keep doing this. You can't keep doing this. If this carried on into May, heck, even June, and the Yankees just kept giving up close leads, close games, you're slapping your teammates in the face. You're slapping your guys in the face, like Aaron Judge, who's doing all he can to win games. Max Fried, who does all he can to win games. Weaver does all he can to bring the game over to the closer. You're slapping everyone in the face by doing that. Goldschmidt for batting like 380. So I'm glad that Aaron Boone did the right thing, and he's working fast, and it's also proving that there's accountability in this locker room, which has not been seen in previous years. There's definitely accountability this year. and I'm very happy to see that. So Aaron Boone gets nothing but praise from me. Williams, the opposite. But I do think that Williams handled it very well. I watched that that interview, and and to be fair, I think that he said all the right things. He said, what did he say? He quoted it saying, and I quote, "I can't say it's undeserved." Good for him. That shows some accountability from his part, accountability from Aaron Boone to his locker room. So that's all good. Get Williams into low leverage situations. Get him looking at film. Let's get him looking at if he's tipping his pitches. Maybe get him to work on the sequencing between the fastball and the changeup, because it seems like the batters are not confused by any stretch of the imagination. So all these things can be worked on. I am not saying that Williams is completely cooked as a Yankee. I'll say that more likely than not he is, in terms of being what he was in previous years. I think that's pretty. I can confidently say he won't be the same Williams, but we might be able to get him back to something in the range of a 3+ ERA kind of reliever, which you can live with, as long as he's not a closer, maybe as an 8th inning guy. If we can just get him to fix some of these aspects to his sequencing, maybe his confidence, maybe his comfort level being a Yankee. I think all these things are reasons why he has been such a disaster. I don't think he's comfortable here. I think he wanted to go to the Dodgers, or at least stay in Milwaukee. He definitely doesn't seem comfortable by the Yankee crowd. Doesn't seem comfortable in the media, and he doesn't seem comfortable pitching to American League batters, as proven by the 9 earned runs given up in just 4 innings against American League. So it looks like there's a whole bunch of things that he needs to work on, and I'm glad that we've taken him off the most pressurized situation. That's good management. Let's see how he responds. I certainly don't wish him ill, but I can safely say that he has been our worst New York Yankee this year, by far, and it's not even close. He is by far the worst performer of the New York Yankees this year, and he needs to own that and take that, and hey, learn from it.
Yeah, and I think the biggest key to the whole thing, and it's something that we've talked about for the last couple of years, is the meritocracy of the pecking order. And if you want your spot, you have to earn it. Contract be damned or status be damned. If you're not holding up your end of the bargain, you're not going to be in that spot. And we're seeing that this year at this point. Grisham, look at the playing time he's getting because of what he's bringing to the table, rather than just being that guy that can really contribute to this team, but we're only seeing 1 or 2 days a week. And it's good to see it on the pitching end, because it's not that he's coming into these close games. They're bringing him in games where there's a 4, maybe 5 run lead, and they're either tying it or taking over the game and leaving it up to the Yankees in the bottom of the 9th, or just blowing the game completely. Luckily for the Yankees, it's more been at Yankee Stadium, and the Yankees still, do have a chance to kind of take the game over, but, and walk it off. When you're handed a 4-run lead, that should never even be an option if you're a closer. Is New York, we've had arguments with former subscribers about, there's no such thing as the pressures of New York. We've all called out on it. Yes, there's a substantial amount of pressure when you're playing in those pinstripes. They are heavy. It's a heavy uniform to wear. So this could be one of those where he can go somewhere else and go right back to where he was. That, I think that's too soon of an assumption. Let's see how everything turns out. If he is a lights out 8th inning pitcher and hands the ball over to Weaver for a close, then that's I'm very satisfied with that, outcome. If you're going to have him for the year, Do I think the whole thing with the facial hair policy, as much as I was anti changing the policy for one player, especially somebody on loan, I think that's kind of just kind of throwing stuff in at the wall to see what sticks. I don't
Oh,
think
no,
that.
no, 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 no. I
That's
wouldn't say that, but I
No, no, no.
understand it's
I've
not a
heard
big
that
deal.
argument. Yeah.
No, it's not a big deal. I'm just saying that when you add it to his performance,
It's not a good look.
it's certainly not a good look.
Yeah.
No, I think he should have. I even before the change, I felt that if anyone was to speak up about it, I would have preferred it not to be him, considering he'd been in the building for a cup of coffee.
I'd
by
rather
the
it
time
from
he was
Rodon than
demanding.
Williams.
Yeah, I mean, I would have preferred it to be someone else like Rodon or something like that. But I mean, I still agree with the decision. I'm not Monday morning quarterbacking it. I'm kind of pointing out that someone who's just come into the building for a cup of coffee probably shouldn't be dictating 50-year policies instead of focusing on what's going on with him. Now, Ken, let's get into the chat because we've got lots of people in the chat, lots of opinions. We've got almost 40 in the building, so I really do appreciate everyone in the building. This is as much your show as anyone. This is a show for the fans, by the fans. So I want you guys to all hit the like button, sub it out, sub it up. Let's climb. Let's continue to climb. We want to get to the point where we get to 1,100. We want to get the views up. We want to do some special things this year, but we're gonna need your help. And you've already stepped up this point. Let's continue to push it. So let's get into the chat. We much love to everybody in the chat. Let's start with Ken. Donald Williams with 4 pitches. Since coming to the Yankees, he has only thrown a fastball and a change. Did Blake change his approach to closing, eliminating the slider and the cutter? Right. Well, the only way we can judge that is by looking at Baseball Savant. Okay. So, Baseball Savant page, you're right. It's just 4-seam fastball and changeup. However, last year, it was still the same. 4-seam fastball and changeup with a cutter used like 1% of the time. So in 2024, he threw 209 4-seam fastballs, 176 changeups, and 6 cutters. So I'm speaking up against this new thing that's trending on X. Is Matt Blake killing Devin Williams? No. I'm sorry. Not everything is the Yankees' fault, right? And I'm sorry, this is not the Yankees' fault. This is purely 100% and only on Devin Williams. He is accountable for his own performance. And it's just not been what you'd expect. So in 2024, as I say, you can mix it a cutter if you want, but he didn't really use it that much. He is a fastball changeup guy. And the percentages of fastball and changeup isn't that much different from previous years. It just, the metrics are down on it. So I haven't seen much of a slider thrown last year with him, if any. So I think this is him. And it's on him to change it. So, no, I don't think Matt Blake is doing anything wrong. Rob, give me your opinion on that.
He's throwing the same 2 pitches he threw last year. It's just he's not getting the swings and misses. The fastball has no life to it, and the changeup's not changing. They call it the airbender for a reason. It's more like a screwball than anything, but it's not moving. Right. There it is. It's kind of like a flat changeup, and that's coming in at like high 80s. It's going to get tattooed if it's not moving, and it's not moving. So that's what it is. I don't think it's Matt Blake doing anything wrong with him. He tried to change his pitching, his form a little bit, because last year he was tipping pitches in that playoff game against the Mets where Alonso took him deep. He was tipping his pitches, and he admitted he tried to change up a little bit of his motion. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just he needs to go back to what he was doing last year in terms of his delivery, but that could take some time to get back to that mode, even though he's been so used to it. Once you change something, it's a little difficult to go right back to the way you used to do it. So maybe it's something as simple as that. Maybe it's his arm angle. All these things actually are a factor, which is why analytics are important, because it is a good way to tell you what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. I don't think anyone knows the answer until Devin Williams knows the answer, because he says it himself. He doesn't know. He
And
can't
that's gonna
pinpoint.
appear.
That's kind of an issue. He doesn't really know what it is because he said he feels fine. It's not like he has like a bad grip. He said he's throwing the pitches the same way he used to. It's just it's not moving. So until they figure it out, we don't know. That's why it was so important they made this decision because his pitches are flat. Like I said before, usually you can tell if a pitcher's starting to turn it around. Oh, the exit velo on the hitters, it's dropping on this certain pitch. That means he's moving it better or he's generating whiffs. He's not doing that. If he was doing that, you'd be like, okay, a turnaround's coming. But they're hitting him harder now. Like he actually had a couple of good outings in a row, and his last two, he got absolutely crushed. So it's just like there's been too much bad and not enough good. And Jonathan brings up his usual slow starts. That's true, but it's never been to a point where
Never
it's been
this bad, man.
Right. So that's why the change had to be made. So I don't, again, this, like you said earlier, this is not Monday morning quarterback. I make that trade 10 times out of 10 every single day of the week. You go get a Devin Williams. It's also still April. There's still a lot of time that he can turn it around and get back to the form he was at last year.
Furthermore, this isn't a case where they didn't do the homework like they didn't do on Joey Gallo. Joey Gallo clearly had some issues with pressure situations, and that's well documented. That's not been the case of Williams. Like they did their homework. It's just not working out. And as I say, we have to see how if that changes. I'm not convinced it will, but I'm glad that they made the move quickly in order to stop the bleed. Let's get into some more of the chat. Rajil, loved seeing Boone drop some authority to the pitching staff. I completely agree with you there. That's a very good point. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying there's just better accountability across the board. Rajil is demanding that we get the likes up, and I agree because there's almost 50 in the chat, but I don't think there's 50 likes. So let's get the likes up. It's really important that you do so for us. Ken says every single Yankee fan was excited to give Holmes the boot and bringing Williams in. Williams hasn't started the season the way we wanted. Keep in mind that Weaver and Williams are free agents. Well, I don't think Weaver is going to be a free agent possibility for too long if he continues to pitch to a 0.000 ERA. I demand that the Yankees change their policy of not extending contracts midseason and get him extended. Like there's not
there's got to be an exception to the rule here and there.
Yeah. There's not an argument to be made.
I think that's also important to bring up about Williams. So a lot of people are saying, "Oh, he doesn't care. That's why they don't like his interviews. He doesn't care. He's a free agent
for a contract."
Exactly. He cares. You don't think he cares? He's costing himself money with each run he gives up. You think he doesn't care about that? He could be making $15 million a year to pitch one inning if he's at his best. That's how much closers. That's how much Tanner Scott just got paid. I think he got more than that actually. Jeff Hoffman of the Blue Jays got like double digits. So, I mean, Estevez got paid a big amount to go to Kansas City. Closers get paid. Devin Williams is costing himself money when he pitches poorly. You think he doesn't care about that? Trust me, he cares.
He's already cost himself money by being demoted within 3 weeks. That's definitely going to hurt his bottom line. No doubt about it going into negotiations next year for other teams because I don't think the Yankees will bring him back. CT Cards wins the Morning Post Award. Look at this, baby. Look at this.
Early Bird Award.
Early Bird Award, even better. 6:13 in the morning. CT Cards beats Jonathan. Jonathan has been holding the record for a long, long time. CT Card nips him. So by 3 hours. So CT Card, salute to you. Looks like we've got a competition between CT Cards and Jonathan. Does anyone else want to jump in on the competition for the Early Bird Award? Because the Early Bird Award winner will get a special gift from Pinstripe Chronicles at the end of this season. We have to decide what, but that's the incentive for y'all. And please hit the like button and sub button as we continue to drive this forward. Sunil says Williams will lose money in free agent negotiation leverage here. But if he throws up zeros consistently, he could still restore that lost leverage. Absolutely. He needs to put in the work, though. He absolutely needs to put in the work.
And before we do get to the series awards for the Jays and Yanks series over the weekend, just one more thing with Devin. Look, I don't want to say that I would do that trade like Rob said. We would make that trade 10 times out of 10. It was the right move to make. The decision made over the weekend was the right move to make. It doesn't mean Williams can't work his way back into that circle of trust. But in the moment, every game is counting, and Boone is taking action on that. So I don't want to make this seem like we're bashing on Williams. I think maybe deeper into the summer, he starts to figure a few things out. He could very much earn that closer role back. And I hope he does, because that's what he was brought here to do. Remember what we had last year and what we have now. It may not seem at the moment the greatest comparison to say, well, we have the better player. But let's just be thankful that we have Weaver to kind of hold it down while we wait for Williams to kind of figure out what he is. So I think Williams is going to work his way back in, at some point during the summer. I just give a lot of credit to Boone for being, having the moxie to say, all right, I'm not worried about anybody's feelings. I have games to win. And I'm going to make the decision what's best for not just one player, but the 26 men on the roster. So big credit to Boone for that.
And I don't believe you got gray hairs. No way. No way. I'm sure you're fine. I've got gray hairs.
Like you said, we did have a very interesting series that was just played between these two ball clubs in the AL East. So let's get to Donald's Awards.
The All Rise Award for the MVP of the series. Salute to those in the chat for coming up with that name. As I say, this is a show for the fans, by the fans, so your suggestions are very much considered, and that's a good one. So the All Rise Award, I'm giving it to All Rise himself, Aaron Judge. I think it's just going to be a weekly thing with Aaron Judge, but I'm giving him the MVP. Rob?
I'm going with Anthony Volpe. I think he had a bounce back series. There was a lot of talk about him going into this series, and he came out. He had a really good 3 games, offensively and defensively. I think he really showed up. He needed it. And I think it kind of proves our point of what he is. He's a streaky hitter. And you got to ride the hot, and then you're eventually going to get the cold, and it's going to be very cold when he does get that streak again. But he seems to be hitting one of his hot streaks again, and I want to give him credit while I can, because it might not last very long considering how streaky he is. But I thought he had a really good series, both sides of the ball. Big bounce back for Volpe.
Yeah, I had Judge. It's at this point he's just the center of everything that starts. The last series it was centered around what Goldschmidt was doing. But Judge seemed to be the focal point this series, especially with the home run to kind of jumpstart the scoring in the second game. I thought was key to locking up the series. So Judge got the MVP.
And the chat is 100%. Oh, apart from John Beagledan, come on. It makes it 99% in favor of 99. So everyone agrees with me and Tats on that. Has to be Judge. Low key for me, I'm giving it to Wells. 4 RBIs for Wells. He had a good series. And it's going to take a lot for me to give Volpe any awards. Sorry. Rob, who's your low key?
I went with Wells as well. I was thinking about going with Cabrera because he had a pretty good doubleheader, but he also made like a pretty bad throwing error. So I don't want to. You kind of have to take the good with the bad there. But with the bad, he was good. But Austin Wells, phenomenal. He had a great series, drove in a few runs, and obviously he catches the ball so well. He's a great catcher. Defensively, just really good series for Wells, so I got to give him a shout. But I did like what Cabrera did offensively, and it came at a good time because Arenado hit a walk-off homer, and I was just like, it would be nice to have some power from third base. And then Waldo had a good series. So,
Well, he still also had the throwing error, though.
That's why I didn't give him the award.
Yeah, well said. And Tats.
Yeah, there could have been a multitude of people to get the low key. Jazz with his patience at the plate, working walks. Having more discipline at the plate. Wells for the big hit. Could have qualified for a clutch award. Even Cabrera, Dominguez had a good game. Escara with behind working behind the dish, getting his first home run. But I settled. I went with Volpe for the low key. I thought he had a really good series. Like Rob said, on both sides of the ball. His plate discipline, and if this is going to be that little streak that we're going to get from Volpe, I want to give him a little shout while I have the chance.
Apologies for the noise. It looks like the ghost in my apartment decided to turn on their TV and watch boxing, so that was interesting.
Tell them to subscribe.
Good choice. What's everyone in the chat going? Low key, looks like a lot of Cabreras. So looks like the fans are going with Cabrera, although I do agree with Grisham. I think that was a good shout. So yeah, let's go with the pitching awards. I mean, is it universal? Was it Max Fried again?
Yeah.
And the pitching in general was outside of the closer. The pitching in general was pretty good this series. Like Carrasco pitched well. Schmidt had a bounce back. The bullpen outside of Devin Williams was really good, but Fried somehow, some way, just keeps finding a way to be better than everybody else. So, got to give it to Max Fried.
So let's quickly move on from that. Let's get to the clutch awards. I mean, a couple of candidates. Obviously, Grisham had a nice home run. He's my guy. But I believe the go-ahead home run was Aaron Judge, last night. So he is my clutch award winner. Judge is going to run away with all my awards, it looks like. Rob.
Aaron Judge.
Yep.
Well,
and Tats.
Mine is a little different, a little outside of the box. I gave my clutch award to the third inning of of the first game of the doubleheader. Being able to put up that 6-spot on Gosman, who was giving us trouble. And also, that's what solidified the pitching award for Fried. Because I thought that long inning kind of gave Fried the rest and to kind of refocus like he was able to continue to give us outings after a 25 pitch first inning. The walks, the patience at the plate. When you get 11 batters to the plate in one inning, that just shows complete team discipline and wanting to pick up the guy behind you and just kind of pass the baton. So I thought that inning was a turning point to kind of sweeping the doubleheader, wearing out the pitching staff for the Blue Jays and having them recreate their entire game plan. So right. I thought that was a really clutch inning for the whole day yesterday.
Okay, good show. Right, let's move on to the next awards. You know which one? You're my boy, Blue. You're my boy, Blue. Right, you're my boy, Blue. It has to be, for me, JC Escara. That's right. Our driver-in-chief drove a home run, and he posed for one as well. I love that he posed for the home run. So JC Escara is getting my boy award.
I had the Escara as well. You hit your first home run after we've talked about his journey multiple times. I don't want to rehash the whole thing, but Escara, your first major league home run. Yeah, you get the tip of the cap. You're my boy.
Everyone's going JC. Is Rob going to be JC?
Yeah, but I want to give a special shout out to a former Yankee farmhand. Augusto Ramirez has been on a tear since getting called up to the Marlins. So he's always been a favorite of mine in that system. And I'm glad to see him having some success. Might have to go to a Marlins game just to watch him play. He's off to a great start. Sunil, why do you keep saying my name about stuff that I don't care
about? Okay. Let's get to the L. The L. I'm actually going to give it to MLB. because there was no rain on Saturday. From everything I've heard, they easily could have played. I think it's a slap in the face to a lot of fans that travel long distances. There's a lot of fans that travel from Texas, from Cali, from across the water to go to games, and for them to preempt it by trusting the weather, where you can never trust the weather days in advance. Never do that. And that was on them, because the game easily could have been played, and we wouldn't have needed to have done a doubleheader on Sunday, and we wouldn't have had to have had a completely empty stadium for the night game, which kind of sucks for our players. That the stadium was basically entirely empty. It was kind of reminded me of like the COVID times, man. It was just completely empty. It was weird. So it kind of sucks for them, and that's on the Yankees. So do better, MLB. Do better, Yankees. That shouldn't happen. That game should have been played. There was nothing wrong with the weather. What, a bit of wind? Come on. What is this? I mean, you're hardly playing in the Arctic. You know what I'm saying? You're hardly playing in Iceland in the winter. It's April in New York. A little bit of wind that you can play. A little bit of drizzle you can play. I mean, you played in an actual downpour like the other week. Remember? Literal downpour in Pittsburgh. And you got through that. So I think they easily should have been able to get that game in. So the L goes to whoever decided that game should be off and make it a single admission. So that kind of sucked. That's my opinion. Rob?
To add on that real quick, I think Chris Kirshner was like, they could have played this game today, and someone from that abysmal radio station was like, really? Because it's raining here in Long Island. It's like, well, that's not the Bronx. But but my L goes to Devin Williams. I would give him the Hicks Award, but I have that saved for something else. Devin Williams was terrible. He causes a sweep. Yeah, he had a really bad game, so he takes the L from me.
Yeah, I have Williams. He was my Hicks Award up until his statement. I thought manning up and owning to his mistakes kind of gave him a reprieve from the worst of the worst. So he got promoted to the L after being demoted from the closer. Just by acknowledging his shortcoming on the mound. So yeah, I went with Williams.
All right. Well, let's get to the next award. As Tats referred to, the Aaron Hicks Award. There he is. There's the clown in chief, the president of bullshit, Aaron Hicks, and the Aaron Hicks Award. Let's start with Rob. Who's your Aaron Hicks Award for?
The fan in Cleveland that shouted something that I'm not going to repeat at Jarren Duran of the Red Sox. If anyone knows Duran's story, there was a time not too long ago where he was thinking about doing something that's pretty loose, and he didn't do it, thankfully, and now he's playing baseball. Somebody in the crowd told him he should have done it when he had the chance. And I hope that fan is banned from every stadium. That's fucked up. You don't say that to somebody. That's a real problem that people go through constantly. You never know what someone's going through. And to say that to somebody that dealt with it and nearly did it, you don't say that shit. Like, there's being a fan, there's heckling, but there's crossing a line as well. And that fan, whoever it was, crossed the line. So I can't believe I have to defend the Red Sox here, but this is about people, not a player in a jersey. Don't say shit like that. Be better. If you want to heckle, go ahead and heckle. But that's not heckling. That's crossing a line. That's being a piece of shit. And I hope that person gets what's deservingly coming to them, because that you don't say that shit to somebody.
Salute to Rob for that, man. Well said. Uncle Tats.
Yeah, no, I have almost the same sentiment, but I will be reserving that for tonight's After Dark. do want to talk about the Jared Duran situation, because we're very big proponents for positive mental health. So just a little teaser there. Tune into the After Dark tonight. We'll be talking about a multitude of issues and topics. Jared Duran's situation is definitely going to be one of them tonight. But my Hicks Award went to the MLB for the postponement of the game. We've seen them play in worse weather. The Yankees have probably the biggest opposition the Yankees have had this season has probably been the weather. We've touched on that before. It just seems that just bad weather just follows them all over the place. And the last thing you want to do, this early in the season with wacky weather is put more pressure on the arms of your staff. So doubleheaders in April are not the same as when they're in June. So I think that they really could have gotten that game in
easily.
And I think MLB did jump the gun, despite as I can say, yes, the weather on Long Island Saturday, it sucked, but the Yankees don't play on Long Island.
Exactly. Well said. I'm glad that we're bringing some awareness to mental health. That's something that affects all of us, whether it's ourselves or a family member. It's a lonely, debilitating struggle, but you're not alone. So if anyone watching, please reach out to people. Please talk. You're ain't alone in this. There's lots of help out there, especially in the modern generation. There's a lot more help out there for people. So this channel is a big proponent of awareness for mental health. So I'm glad that Rob and Tats brought awareness to that issue. So definitely agree. On a lighter note, my Hicks Award winner is the definition of Aaron Hicks this month, Devin Williams. Devin Aaron Williams. Honestly, should be ashamed of himself. Absolutely disgraceful, disgusting. Every kind of negative superlative could possibly be issued. He gets absolute ass, absolute trash. Get better, be better, or basically, as far as I'm going to say, step up or step out. It's as simple as that. Yep. Oh, we didn't do an Aaron Boone Award. Aaron Boone, I'm giving him a 10 out of 10 for benching Williams.
Yep. 10.
Yeah, no, I had a 9 out of 10 for, and then I'm, going through everything this morning again, just making sure that I'm not, overthinking it. I underthought it with Bone. I moved mine from an 8 to a 10. And mainly because, which is why Doran's comment here is get all-star, is De Los Santos, who is the 27th man, actually got to play in a game. So, I thought all the pitching moves were right.
Do that with Vivas.
So, Boone finally figured out how to work out, how to manage for the 27th man. So big shout out for that. Boone did an extra point as well as making that pitching change of the closer role.
Cruz has been great. You're right, Anna. He has been great.
Yep.
He makes a weird noise every time he throws.
Hey,
whether it's 80 miles an hour or 97, it's the same noise, but hey, it works. Kind of like Monica Seles.
It drives my dog crazy, but if he's getting outs, I don't care.
It was like Monica Seles when she was a tennis player back in the day. Just grunts every time there's a delivery. But hey, it works. It works. We like Cruz. We like Cruz a lot.
What a steal he's been. Because all I kept hearing from a certain somebody was how bad this bullpen was and how they should trade 8 of them for random names and go get AJ Puck. This bullpen's been great. I mean, outside of the closer, which I think that'll end up being rectified because they made the switch. I mean, Yarborough has done exactly what you would. I mean, his ERA is a bit high, but he's also had some good mop-up roles. But Hill's done his job. Cruz has been phenomenal. Leiter's been fine. Hamilton's come back. He's been fine. And now you're going to get Loizaga back in the next few weeks or I guess month. Bullpen's been really good, and that's been the case every year. Is the bullpen seems to shock us. And we have a guy like Yeri De Los Santos come up yesterday and look really good at just as a 27th man. And I'm happy for him because I was very, very high on him when we got him last year. He struggled and it kind of made me look like a fool. But this year he had a really good spring and he's carried that over. And he came up, gave us, I think it was 2-3 innings out of the pen yesterday to save the entire bullpen for the second game, which was needed because it wasn't a blowout. So big shout out to Yerry De Los Santos and a big shout out to this bullpen in general because they've been really good.
Yeah, further to your point, Rob, the reason why he struggled is because the Yankees gave him some things to work on during the spring. So the results didn't matter. They didn't care about the results. It was just a matter of working on certain things that they wanted to see from him this year. So that's why you never paid real attention to spring stats. Just look at Bellinger had the best spring I've ever seen. And look how it's not carried forward. And yeah, it's this thing. A lot of the thing with pitchers is that they have like certain things that they want to work on. Pitching coach will, or the front office will say, "I want you guys to work on such and such for this outing," and it doesn't really matter what the results are. It's just a matter of working on it and getting comfortable with it. So it looks like that's worked with Cruz. Whatever the Yankees have done with him, it's worked a treat. He looks excellent. And Sunil wants to give credit to the New York Giants for an excellent draft. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Big Blue all the way. Let's see what else can we talk about? We had a heck of a series and an offensive extravaganza. The offense came around. What are your thoughts?
I thought the plate discipline was exactly what we were used to seeing early last year, and we got to see that a lot over the series. And I think that's where you start to see, like with pitching, you'll feel they're starting to find their groove of their pitching when they start getting the swing and misses. When you're seeing bats, so players working their walks and not expanding the zone, that's how you know they're starting to really get a feel for seeing the ball a lot better. And not just trying to hope that they make contact. They're waiting for a pitch they can make contact. And I think this is one of those series that you should start to see some of these bats in the middle of the lower of the lineup start to kind of, start putting the pieces together and really making this a deep lineup. You saw this weekend the potential this whole roster has.
I think there's only I think Ben Rice was the only one that didn't have like a great series, which is interesting because he's been so good. But Trent Grisham hit a home run yesterday. They let him off, which is something that Donald brought up last show. I don't want them changing the lineup up too much, though. It's like every day there's a different lineup. But outside of Rice, like everyone came through, and I'm not, this isn't an attack on Rice. I kept saying eventually he's going to hit a little bit of a snag, but yeah, he did cool off a little bit, Jared, but he's also still numbers wise, he's been outstanding. But I think eventually he's going to get back to hitting if they give him pitches to hit. And that's important. If the rest of the lineup starts to do its job, then Ben Rice will come around. But he did hit a little bit of a snag this series, but it's expected. It's baseball. If he was hitting like that all season long, he would be tested. So you kind of expected this to happen at some point, and hopefully he gets over it quickly. But, I mean, Goldschmidt's been great. Bellinger had a fine series. Volpe had a good series. Jazz, bit of a mixed bag. But if we can get that kind of offense more than usual, then we should win a lot more games. And, hey, we won 17 games already, and this team is far from complete. There's been a lot of inconsistencies here, and this team still has the best record in the American League. So I think that says something about the roster they put together. It's not at full health. A lot of players have struggled, and we still have one of the best records in baseball, not just the American League. So I'll take that. I mean, I think that's a lot better than a lot of us were expecting in the first month. This month has gone pretty well.
I agree with that. That's why I want to give Boone credit here. Obviously, none of us here have been huge fans of his, but we are always willing to change our opinions if you see things changing for the better. And I have to say, I don't think anyone could do a better job than what Aaron Boone's done this past month. This is an awkward team to manage. It's not the easiest team to manage. You're having to handle this Williams thing, which is enough on its own to cripple a lot of teams when your star closer is pitching to an 11 ERA and blowing everything in sight. That would normally derail most teams, but it hasn't derailed the Yankees. The Yankees haven't really gotten much from their great white hope, Anthony Volpe. They don't really have a third baseman. Their big $25 million guy Bellinger has been very poor, and they've lost 3/5 of their rotation, all at the start of this month. Right? It's not been an easy team to manage, and guess what? We've still got the best record in the American League. A lot of it is thanks to Aaron Judge, but a lot of it is down to better accountability. There's better urgency. Guys are playing hard. Guys are playing well. The defense has been much better. Our pitching has been largely pretty damn good. Our rotation outside Max Fried hasn't been great, but even that's been slightly improved. Schmidt had a decent outing this time. Rasco had a decent outing game one. Like the pitching has been getting better. The bullpen's been basically shut down, bar one guy. So that's awesome. A lot of this deserves a lot of credit. You're getting Ben Rice, who's come out of nowhere. You got Trent Grisham, who's playing to a career year. This has not been the easiest team to manage, and he's managing it flawlessly. He's getting guys to play well, and credit to those guys for coming through. It just seems to be a slightly better organization. The offense has been good by and large. Whatever the work that Ben Rice has done in the offseason has been tremendous. Same with Grisham. The work he's done in the offseason has been tremendous. And Aaron Judge is obviously continues to defy basically any common sense, because this man is just getting better and better and better. You would think that a 62 home run would be the season would be like the headline of his career, but he actually gets better and better since then, which is like mind blowing. So I mean, that's only been seen since like freaking Lou Gehrig, Babe Ruth, Barry Bonds kind of stuff. So I got to give him credit for that. So I think the Yankees deserve a ton of credit for how they've played. As I say, Aaron Boone deserves a lot of credit too. Not the easiest team to manage. He's managed it very, very well. I still think Brian Cashman had a very good offseason. So I think there's a lot to be optimistic about. And good news, we're getting Stanton back soon, and we're getting Luis Gil back. He's basically starting in spring training now.
Yep.
So he could be back in like a month or maybe 5-6 weeks. And then how you got a legit ace and a legit B starter in Luis Gil after Max Fried. So I think there's a lot to be optimistic about. And sorry, just to mention, Weaver, we're not worried. 0.00 ERA. Man. You saved the day.
And Loizago's coming back.
If you weren't pitching to a 0.00 ERA, we would probably be fourth place right now, because he has saved a bunch of games.
Yeah. Also, I did make sorry, Tats. I made a mistake. We actually are second in the AL behind Detroit by like a game, but still one of the best records in AL and all of baseball. And that's with no Cole, no Heel, no Stanton, a closer that can't close, at least up until yesterday, and a lot of other injuries and inconsistencies. Some players not playing up to expectations, Cody Bellinger being one of them. Even Jazz has been on an ice-cold streak for the last couple of weeks now. So Rodon didn't get off to the greatest of starts, but he's been outstanding lately. The rotation in general, outside of Fried, wasn't good for like the first two turns. So with all that, a 17-11 record that could easily be 19-9 had Devin Williams closed out those two games that he just recently blew. I mean, you really couldn't have asked for a better month. And there's only a couple of days left before the Justin Timberlake memes start to come up. It's going to be May, but we'll see. It's been a great
start. There's
already
posters all over my school that I work at.
I know it's everywhere, right? I'm waiting for it.
Fill me in on this. What's this Justin Timberlake stuff?
Oh, I'll take a picture and send it to you guys in our chat. It's
we're showing our age here, but if anyone I'm sure everyone in the chat knows who NSYNC is, but it's gonna be. He says it's gonna be me, but the way he says it sounds like he's saying May, and everyone posts as we get closer to the month of May. Guess what tomorrow is, guys? And you'll see that part of the song.
Yeah.
Or just his part of that song at the very end. It's coming.
No, and the other thing, you got to be in a certain demographic to actually enjoy that kind of music.
People would go to war over those
metalheads, so we don't know anything about NSYNC.
like that type of music is like for us, like people that listen to like still listen to hair bands from the 80s. You know, it's just time to let it go. But no, I think it's not just Boone, right? And Boone's been phenomenal with the pitching staff, but also, you know, they all want to shit on Matt Blake for Williams. But look at what Max Blake done with every other pitcher. Maybe it's not Matt Blake's problem with Williams. Maybe
Definitely
it's
not
Williams'
Max
problems
Blake.
with Williams. You know, you can't look at guys like Cruz and Hamilton and Tim Hill and Weaver and be like, yeah, he's a terrible pitching coach. Look what he's done with these guys that when the Yankees brought him in, we were scratching our heads going, oh, you know, and look at what they've become. So next thing you know, that's why I am not giving up on Williams. I would just give him the eighth inning, you know, seventh for a little while. Let Matt Blake figure out what's going on. Maybe he does need to bring back one of those, you know, one of those two pitches. Maybe he does need to bring back a slider or a cutter and mix in a third pitch here and there to keep the hitters off balance, you know, and not just continue with the fastball changeup. It worked for Canley until it didn't. You know, and Canley had a pretty good career with just those two pitches on the Matt Blake, you know, and the previous, you know, pitching coaches that he's had. You can be a closer with two pitches. Williams might need that third pitch because of the way the game is evolving.
Anyone that's complaining about Matt Blake, let's not forget who we had. Let's not forget who we had before him. Okay, let's not forget that we picked up Sonny Gray and they said stop throwing your best pitch. Let's not forget that we picked up James Paxton and they said stop throwing your best pitch. Let's just forget about who we used to have and let's be happy that we have Matt Blake. And it kind of goes back to my point from last year. I was like, I'd rather them get these reclamation projects over the proven arms sometimes because the proven arms usually don't come here and perform. Case in point, Devin Williams. But you have a guy like Luke Weaver who was a nobody when we got him, and now we're like, this guy is a godsend. I don't know what it is, but it seems like whenever we get these random names, Tonkin from last year, and they turn into Jay Cousins when we get him back. They turn into really good pitchers for us that we're kind of like, oh, keep them, don't get rid of. Like we all wanted Tim Hill back. Could you imagine telling us that from last year when we picked up Tim Hill? We're like, who is this guy? And you would said, don't worry, in December of this year you're going to we would have said you were crazy. But that's how Matt Blake has been operating. He turns other teams' trash into the Yankees' treasure. And that's been the case for years now since we've gotten him. So anyone that's complaining about Matt Blake needs to stop because we had Larry freaking Rothschild before him, and I would take Matt Blake every single day.
Could you imagine if we had Sonny Gray with Matt Blake? Whew.
I can make it simpler than that. Anyone complaining about Matt Blake doesn't know what they're talking about. Doesn't know ball. That's as simple as that. Matt Blake is an elite pitching coach, and I agree with that. And you can also add the Cruz to that list. They know what they're doing. Our pitching factory knows what they're doing, and any Williams issues has nothing to do with the front office, with the coaching staff. This is down to Williams. Simple as that. I'll always call it as I see it. This ain't nothing to do with the organization because the organization has a pretty damn good record right now, and they deserve a ton of credit. So they're definitely going to get it from ourselves.
Yeah, it's still early, and they're still going to grow. There's going to be some bumps in the road, but the way that they've handled this season, I have more confidence than in the past that the coaching staff and the management are going to pull this team through. It's just the instinct I have right now, you know, and hopefully I'm right. But what I am right about is we actually have the most phenomenal chat and all the great subscribers that we could ever ask for. So we appreciate all of you hanging out with us today. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that sub button, share this out, your friends, your family. The stream is on the corner. Enjoy the upcoming series with the Yankees. We'll be back Wednesday morning, 10 a.m., as always, as promised. So just remember to hit those likes. Remember, wear those pinstripes of pride and play hard.